Medical cannabis. There's a lot of ways to get into your system, and it can seem very complex, but really it's just 3 major ways, and we'll break down the best ways that you can use it, starting from the very easiest and less tricky to the most challenging. The 3 ways to get it into your system are through the skin, through the lungs, or by eating it. And through the skin is the easiest way. For anyone out there with relatives who's scared of getting high, they can use topical CBD or topical cannabis cream, and it can help right away. And it can be almost a gateway drug to show them this can be really good, because we have a very widespread endocannabinoid system in our skin. It helps to control our skin regeneration and the skin stem cells. And so there's a reason that you so often hear about the topical use of cannabis, because it goes so far back in human history. We've been doing this a long time, and there's so many stories about it working to get today and studies backing up that it does work. For skin conditions, it's pretty straightforward. Just rub it onto the affected area. It's also helpful for exercise and muscle recovery as well. So that one's more straightforward. There's a lot of different types of creams, but really it's just rubbing something on your skin. Then, for your fast, rapid approach, that's either smoking cannabis or vaping it. And both of those really aren't that different. Smoking a plant material isn't great for your lungs. That being said, it's not that big a deal. Smoking a joint every day for 30 years, you're more likely to get a little bit of asthma and things like that, but it doesn't increase your lung cancer risk, surprisingly. In fact, it might even decrease it slightly because of the anti-cancer properties of the cannabinoids. But a lot of people used to smoke in the 60s and 70s and are now needing it for aches and pains. They like smoking joints because it's what they're used to. So I would recommend that to people as long as they're not having lung difficulties with it. The best part about using the lungs is that it gets into your system very fast. Within 2 minutes, you're having all the psychoactive effects that you're going to feel. And so it's very easy to just take little hits all throughout the day to help control pain or mood or things like that. You don't have to take 3 or 4 hits at once. You can take very tiny ones. And that leads me to the vape pen, because this is perhaps the easiest, sexiest way that people are using cannabis today, because it's a way to just have this very discreet pen. Nobody has to know you do it. You can do it in a bathroom. You can step outside for 1 second and you can take 3 or 4 hits if you need that many to stabilize. But for a lot of people, it's just a tiny little hit. The other advantage of vape pens is that for older folks who are very scared of the psychoactive effects of THC, they can very easily titrate their dose and take very small amounts and slowly build up to see what it feels like and to get used to what psychoactivity is with THC. The only downside perhaps with vapes is that people who enjoy cannabis recreationally say that the vapes might take out some of the highs and some of the lows. You can't get everything from the plant into this vape juice. People try and they do a pretty good job, but you don't get all the terpenes, you don't get all of the full essence and molecules of the plant into the vape. But you still do get some of the terpenes, and you get the THC and CBD and the minor cannabinoids, and so it does a good job, and it's much easier on your lungs, and it's very easy to use. So there's smoking versus vapes. And then the last one is perhaps the most helpful, but also the most challenging, and that's using an edible form of CBD or THC. The thing about edibles is your liver makes them stronger, especially the THC. And so if you are using an oil, it's going to be the fastest. If you're going to be using a brownie, it's going to be slower to break down your system. And as it's breaking down and getting into your system through your stomach, the cannabinoids go through your liver, like almost everything does. And the liver takes that regular delta-9 THC, the classic THC that gets you high, and it turns it into delta-11 THC, which is a chemical cousin. The thing about delta-11 THC is that it's somewhere 5 to 7 times more potent than regular delta-9 THC. So if you had a joint that was enough to get you decently high, but not over the moon, if instead you baked that and ate it, then it would be enough to cause much, much higher levels of psychoactivity. And in fact, that's why edibles are often so dangerous, and you hear all of these scare stories, is because someone accidentally eats 4 brownies because they don't know what they are, or they don't realize their tolerance is very low and they eat a whole cookie and it's stronger than they expected. And all of a sudden, cannabinoids at that level can be psychedelic. And if you're not ready for a psychedelic cannabis trip, it can be very unpleasant. If that does happen, the thing is to just have loved ones around you, keep things calm and smooth. It all ends eventually. It's what you tell anyone having a bad drug trip. This is just in your head. It will go away. We're here for you. That doesn't have to happen, though. As long as you act safe around edibles, they can be the most helpful tool that you have, because edibles work for a long time. They take a while to kick in, but they can work more like half a day or a whole day, while a vape might wear off after an hour or 2 or 3. And so for some people who are dealing with pain or mental health conditions, they have to search for the sweet spot, but they find out that it's just 1/2 gummy. And taking that half gummy after breakfast in the morning is perfect to get them through lunch. And they take another one after lunch. And that's what they need for pain control over the course of the day. And so just remember, when you're working with edibles, start very slowly and remember that they can take 2 hours to work. And so don't dose again at the 1.5 hour mark saying, this isn't working. Wait the full 2 hours, because you don't want to just finish that last swallow and look up and realize, oh, I'm already high and now I'm about to get much higher. It's much better to take it slow and gradually build up, because especially dealing with elderly relatives, if you get them too high, there's a good chance they'll stop and they'll never do it again. And that's too bad, because if you find the sweet spot with this stuff, it can make a huge difference in quality of life. Cannabinoids in general are amazing for aging. That's what got me into this in the first place. That's why I do consultations with people. I mostly am working with older people or doctors to older people. And it helps in all of these different things that aging is. And so what I often hear people come to is using all 3 of these methods. Especially because in general, the medical cannabis market really is broken down by those 3. About 1/3 of the market is topicals, 1/3 is vapes and smoke, and 1/3 is edibles. Maybe a little bit more on the smoking and vaping side. But it could be very easy to imagine that you take 1 gummy in the morning, 1 at lunch, and then during the day, you're using your vape pen as needed for flare-ups of pain or mental distress or whatever you're using it for. And then for your aches and pains, you're using topicals as needed as well. Topicals do wear off pretty quickly, but they can be really helpful as you're using them. You just might have to use more of it. So those are your 3 main ingestion methods. I hope you find that helpful. Feel free to reach out to me with any questions. I make more videos to respond to what people want to know. And if you want to see my how-to guides, go to whitewhalecreations.com. And if you want to hear the science every week, my newsletter on Substack is Cannabinoids and the People.